Okay, everybody, so normally when you come to read aloud time, you listen to the story and you listen and you get some ideas about the characters and about the story. But today's going to be a little different. Today we're going to do an argument read aloud. And what that means is that you're going to be listening to the story and you're going to be thinking about an argument. And you're going to be thinking to yourself, what position do I take in that argument? Do I take position A or do I take position B? So I'm going to tell you the argument before we start, and then as you listen, you can be thinking to yourself, what position am I taking on that argument and why? Okay, so the story that we're going to read today comes from a book called Every Living Thing by Cynthia Rylant, and we're going to read a short story called Stray. And in this story, the main character is named Doris, and our argument today is about Doris. Okay, so here it is. Ready? Some people say that Doris... Oh, you're going to take notes? I love it. Some people say that Doris is strong, and some people say that Doris is weak. So will you be listening today? As you listen to the story, will you be thinking about that question? Will you be thinking to yourself, what position do I take on that argument? Do I take the position that Doris is strong, or do I take the position that Doris is weak, and why? Okay, ready? Let's get started. Stray. In January, a puppy wandered onto the property of Mr. Amos Lacey and his wife Mamie and their daughter Doris. Icicles hung 3 feet or more from the eaves of houses. Snowdrifts swallowed up automobiles, and the birds were so fluffed up they looked comic. The puppy had been abandoned, and it made its way down the road toward the Lacey's small house, its ears tucked, its tail between its legs, shivering. Doris, whose school had been called off because of the snow, was out shoveling the cinder block front steps when she spotted the pup on the road. She set down the shovel. "Hey, come on," she called. The puppy stopped in the road, wagging its tail timidly, trembling with shyness and cold. Doris trudged through the yard, went up the shovel drive, and met the dog. "Come on, Pooch." Make some notes. What are you thinking so far about Doris? What position are you taking so far about Doris? Does she seem strong? Does she seem weak? And why? Make some notes to yourself. What are you thinking about Doris? "Where did that come from?" Mrs. Lacey asked, as soon as Doris put the dog down in the kitchen. Mr. Lacey was at the table cleaning his fingernails with his pocket knife. The snow was keeping him home from his job at the warehouse. "I don't know where it came from," he said mildly, "but I know for sure where it's going." Doris hugged the puppy hard against her. She said nothing. Because the roads would be too bad for travel for many days, Mr. Lacey couldn't get out to take the puppy to the pound in the city right away. He agreed to let it sleep in the basement while Mrs. Lacey grudgingly let Doris feed it table scraps. The woman was sensitive about throwing out food. By the looks of it, Doris figured the puppy was about 6 months old. She thought it might have some shepherd in it. 4 days passed, and the puppy did not complain. It never cried in the night or howled at the wind. It didn't tear up everything in the basement. It wouldn't even follow Doris up the basement steps unless it was invited. It was a good dog. Several times Doris had opened the door in the kitchen that led to the basement, and the puppy had been there, all stretched out on the top step. Doris knew it had wanted some company, and that it had lain against the door, listening to the talk in the kitchen, smelling the food, being a part of things. It always wagged its tail, eyes all sleepy, when she found it there. Even after a week had gone by, Doris didn't name the dog. She knew her parents wouldn't let her keep it, that her father made so little money that any pets were out of the question, and that the pup would definitely go to the pound when the weather cleared. Still, she tried talking to them about the dog at dinner one night. Are you thinking about that question? Is she strong? Is she weak? And why? Still, she tried talking to them about the dog at dinner one night. "She's a good dog, isn't she?" Doris said, hoping one of them would agree with her. Her parents glanced at each other. and went on eating. "She's not much trouble," Doris added. "I like her." She smiled at them, but they continued to ignore her. "I figure she's real smart," Doris said to her mother. "I could teach her things." Mrs. Lacey just shook her head and stuffed a forkful of sweet potato in her mouth. Doris fell silent, praying the weather would never clear. Take a second and think to yourself, what position am I taking on Doris so far? What position am I taking in this argument so far, and why? Turn and talk to your partner. What position are you taking on Doris so far, and why?
She never stopped, and she kept praying that the weather would never clear up, because if it did, they would have to take the pup to the pound. It could die by getting run over by a car. But she really cared about that.
Doris fell silent, praying the weather would never clear. But on Saturday, 9 days after the dog had arrived, the sun was shining and the roads were plowed. Mr. Lacey opened up the trunk of his car and came into the house. Doris was sitting alone in the living room, hugging a pillow and rocking back and forth on the edge of a chair. She was trying not to cry, but she was not strong enough. Her face was wet and red, her eyes full of distress. Mrs. Lacey looked into the room from the doorway. "Mama," Doris said in a small voice, "please." Mrs. Lacey shook her head. "You know we can't afford a dog, Doris. You try to act more grown-up about this." Doris pressed her face into the pillow. Outside, she heard the trunk of the car slam shut. One of the doors open and close, the old engine cough and choke and finally start up. "Daddy," she whispered, "please." She heard the car travel down the road, and though it was early afternoon, she could do nothing but go to her bed. She cried herself to sleep, and her dreams were full of searching and searching for things lost. It was nearly night when she finally woke up. Lying there, like stone, still exhausted, she wondered if she would ever in her life have anything. She stared at the wall for a while, but she started feeling hungry, and she knew she'd have to make herself get out of bed and eat some dinner. She wanted not to go into the kitchen past the basement door. She wanted not to face her parents. But she rose up heavily. Her parents were sitting at the table, dinner over, drinking coffee. They looked at her when she came in, but she kept her head down. No one spoke. Doris made herself a glass of powdered milk and drank it all down. Then she picked up a cold biscuit and started out of the room. "You better feed that mutt before it dies of starvation," Mr. Lacey said. Doris turned around. "What?" "I said you'd better feed your dog. I figure it's looking for you." Doris put her hand to her mouth. "You didn't take her?" she asked. "Oh, I took her all right," her father answered. "Worst looking place I've ever seen. 10 dogs to a cage. Smell was enough to knock you down. And they give an animal 6 days to live, then they kill it with some kind of a shot." Doris stared at her father. "I wouldn't leave an ant in that place," he said, "so I brought the dog back." Mrs. Lacey was smiling at him and shaking her head as if she would never, ever understand him. Mr. Lacey sipped his coffee. "Well," he said, "are you going to feed it or not?" Take a minute to make some notes to yourself. Revise your notes. Okay, be thinking about that argument. Be thinking about that question. Is Doris strong? Why do I think that? Because. Is Doris weak? Why do I think that? Because. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to choose your position, and it's going to go like this. Position A is going to say, I take the position that Doris is strong, and those that take that position are going to come here. Okay? And position B is going to be, I take the position that Doris is weak, and position B is going to go over there. Okay, thumbs up if you have your position. Can't be on the fence, you gotta make a decision. Okay. A is, I take the position that Doris is strong. B is, I take the position that Doris is weak. Go. Quickly, 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 make a position. Make a choice, make a choice. Interesting. Well, I wonder, because I know that you are able to make arguments, I'm wondering if that you'll take the challenge to see if you might be able to take a position that you might not at first agree with, but say to yourself, I'm going to take the challenge to try to argue that position. So I need a couple more brave people to try to take that position that you might not at first agree with. Couple more, couple more. Come on, you can do it. Be brave. Say to yourself, I can do this. I know I can do this. I'm strong at arguing. I'm strong at reading. I can do this. Quickly, quickly, I'm going to have to ask you some people to go. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, so you're going to make 2 straight lines. You're going to make 1 line here and 1 line here. And now you're going to come and meet a line and meet in the middle. So everybody come meet in the middle. Make sure that you're directly facing somebody. And shake the hands of the person across from you. Okay, your partner's right there, your opponents. Okay, this person is your opponent. So everybody shake your opponent's hand again. Okay, everybody, so let's just talk for a second about how this is going to work, okay? So I'm just going to give you just a basic overview of it, and then we'll go through it together step by step. Okay, so we're going to have a debate about this text today. The person across from you who you just shook hands with is your opponent in this debate. So first, you're going to have some time to plan with the people that share your position, and you're going to have some time to plan out how you're going to make your case to your opponent and support your position. Then you're going to have time to actually meet with your opponent, so you'll meet in partnerships and twos with your opponent, okay? And you'll each have time, each one of you will have time to state your case. Then you'll go back and you'll have more time to plan with the team that is the same position as you, and you can get some help. Like, help, help, how do I talk back to my opponent, okay? Then you'll go back and you'll talk back to all your opponent's points, okay? And then we'll conclude. Okay, so you're going to have time to caucus, which means plan with people that share your same position. Then you're going to have time to meet with your opponent in twos and state your case. Then you're going to go back and caucus and plan, again, with the same position team. And then you're going to go back and you're going to talk back to your opponent. So right now it's time for, everybody point. What time is it for? Caucus, which is planning. So right now I have a copy of the text for you, and it's in all of your notebooks. I also have some highlighters. Mark it up, gather your evidence. It's like you're going into battle and you have to get ammunition, and your ammunition is reasons from the text and text evidence. So A, come here, B, go there, start planning. Step number 1, you got to be open-minded. You got to say to yourself, but what if? Or could it be? But what if? Okay, so rather than just starting it off by saying like, oh, this is going to be hard, start it out by saying to yourself, like, I can do this. I can find evidence that's going to support my position. So let's think about what weak could mean.
I got one thing.
Okay, talk to your group, talk to your group.
She said.
Everyone listen to Madeline, listen to Madeline.
She only kept asking her parents for 5 minutes or something.
Ooh, interesting.
And then she just gave up.
Interesting. In
gave
fact,
up.
what does it say in the text? What does it say?
They continued to ignore her, and then she said she fell silent. She fell in silence.
Now wait, let me say, then she starts crying. Those are some interesting pieces of evidence. Are we correct here? Position, that's some interesting pieces of evidence. I bet you we could find some more too, right? So let's keep looking. Keep that mindset of like, I can do this. I can find evidence to support me. Now, you found a piece of evidence. We want to think of a reason that evidence could fit into, right? So let's think about she's weak because, and then think about a reason that then you can back up with evidence. So first think of your reasons, okay? I'll come back, I promise.
Please, Daddy. She didn't say she's a good behaved dog. She doesn't scream at night. She doesn't cry at night, does she?
Why is there the whole paragraph here? I mean, this is all where she's weak. This whole entire paragraph, she's really, really weak. And we should make a point here on this paragraph. Yeah.
Let's box it out.
Where does it start?
It starts like every after week and then it ends whenever clear.
Okay. So make sure that when you come up with something like that, like a reason for your position, make sure that you find exact lines in the text evidence to support your position, okay? Because you want to be able to say, like, this is it. I have hard proof, and hard proof is text evidence. So always make sure that you can underline and you can quote and cite the text to back up your point. Okay, so can you find text evidence to support what you just said, sweetie? Can you find some text evidence to tell them? Okay, so tell them what you found.
The puppy had been abandoned. It made its way down the road toward the Lacey small house. Its ears tucked its tail between its legs, shivering.
So what does that show? So that shows
that she's strong because she cared for the puppy and brought the puppy back.
And the fact that it's abandoned, right? So think about that. So whenever you find a piece of text evidence, think to yourself, like, how am I going to say what this shows?
Where does that puppy come from? Just don't do that.
Doris is strong because she wasn't like, oh look, there's a puppy, let's take it to the pound. Yeah,
And she wouldn't let it just sit there. She would have to take care of it because, like, anyone would just take a dog from the road and keep it, you know. But someone that was strong would actually take care of it, which she tried to do.
Yeah, but usually people that are weak don't leave
They
it.
would have just saw the dog there and just kept walking.
Okay, everybody, I want to show you something that could be helpful to both sides. So remember when you write your essays, how you use boxes and bullets, right, to organize what you're going to say, and the box sort of is like your main idea, or in this case it could be your position, and the bullets are your major points or your reasons. So right now you're finding a lot of pieces of text evidence. See if some of those pieces of text evidence could go together and maybe make a category, and that could be your reason. So you have 30 more seconds to organize yourselves to meet with your opponent. So organize yourselves quickly. Go ahead, 30 more seconds. Make sure you know what you're going to say. So make sure you know what you're going to say to your opponent. Make sure you're ready.
Right here, like, Doris turned around and said, what? Like, she was thinking that they were to... This is the first.
So you know what you're going to say? So you're going to say, I take the position that, I take the position because, my first reason, right? So you're ready to talk? Be ready. Okay, meet with your opponents. Partner A, opponent A, you start first. You have 2 minutes each. I will ring the bell in the middle so you know when to switch. Meet with your opponent. Go quickly.
My first reason is that when she's...
I take the position that...
I think the position of my first reason is Doris felt silent. She felt silent after she just said she didn't keep going and going and going and going.
So my position that Doris is weak, and my first reason is because
she felt silence. And she just prayed for the weather to clear up.
And this shows that?
Yeah, and it shows that here when it says after Miss Lacey shook her head and she shoved a fork full of sweet potato in her mouth. She felt silent, but she was praying for the weather when she knew the weather was gonna clear up after like a few days.
Everybody, I want to give you a tip. You should be taking notes as you're listening to your opponent's points so that you can be able to talk back to them. You should be taking notes. Keep going. It's almost time to switch.
Wouldn't really care all about the puppy, or it would just take it, chain it up in its basement and let it die, or it could just send it to the pound, or it could just let it sit there and die. But Doris, like, what she did was she saved the puppy and she took care of it. She took care of the puppy, and I know this because it said they fed it and they let it sleep and let it sit in its basement, and it shows that like she really cares about the dog. Like someone who didn't care would just sit there and not feed it. Yeah, and she's strong because So I said no person would ever put no person will ever get a dog from the street. Only a person like that. I mean, some people would, but she went in the freezing snow to get that dog. Yeah, but she was already shoveling there, wasn't she? Yeah. She wasn't walking around looking for something. I know, but she was shoveling the snow on her lawn or maybe on the sidewalk. She saw it in the street. And so she went in the street in the freezing snow to get the dog. Yeah, but then after when she was begging for it, she didn't say anything. Well, yeah, the cat is weak because, like, it's not weak because, it's not weak. No, because, like, she took the puppy. She got to keep the puppy. She was I was right. She said that I was right, but that's not my opinion. Over here. There's a camera right behind you. Seriously? I know the camera.
Okay, everybody, eyes are on me. Okay, so now you're gonna have time to go back and you're gonna have time to plan and with your caucus again and talk about, these are my opponent's points, help, they were really good, what should I do to talk back to them? No one's moving yet, eyes are on me, no one's moving yet. Or you could say, oh, I have a perfect way to talk back to a point that my opponent made, let me share it with the group and help you. When you are planning this, you are planning to talk back to the points that your opponent made, okay? So remember what your opponent said and show that those points are not the truth. So go ahead, meet and plan.
Okay,
Okay, so I want to give you guys a tip. So, so have a seat. Let's have a tip. Okay, I want to give you a tip about being really strong at rebutting. Okay, this is a tip. Ready? Are we all listening to the tip? People that are really effective at rebuttal are able to take the exact same evidence that the opponent gave and say, that does not show that. Because what they're trying to do is like connect the dots to make a big picture, right? They're like, if we connect all the dots, you'll see that Doris is strong. What you're trying to do is say those dots do not connect. So if they say like, this evidence shows that, your job is to say this evidence does not show that because. So let's take one of their points. What's one of their points? What's one of their points?
What they said she got a dog from the street, and she said,
And that shows that she's strong. Right?
yeah, but
so now let's talk back to that. So your point seems to be that she found a dog on the street, and that shows she's
she was
strong.
walking around for it.
So one second. So you'll say to them. So your point seems to be that she found a dog on the street, and that shows she's strong. But I argue that does not show she's strong because. So what could you say to that?
Because you could say back to that, well, sure, she saved the dog, but does that make her a strong person?
Why? Keep talking.
Well, even if you save something, it says that she knew pretty much that her dad didn't make a lot of money. Her family was kind of poor.
She knew she
And
was
she,
a dog.
she knew she wouldn't be able to keep it.
So I mean, that doesn't make her strong at
And,
all.
she's gonna have to get rid of it.
And for the wondering part, she wasn't wandering around. She was just like shoveling.
Okay,
She just
so but let's go back to their point. Their point is that she takes care of the dog and she saves it, and that makes her strong. But now you have to ask yourself: would only a strong person take care of a dog?
No,
could
that's
other?
not true.
So you might say to them like, just because you take care of a dog, that doesn't show you're strong. Okay, so like things like that. You have to take their evidence and say that doesn't show what you're saying because you could take care of a dog and not be strong, right? Okay, so try to talk back to that. Try to talk back to their evidence.
Why did all the girls say was strong? Because she kept the dog and she didn't cry. But I explained to her
That was definitely her face was wet and red. Her eyes full of distress.
Now I was saying now, for example, he was just like strong because on the road she meant to save the dog. I mean, that's not much evidence.
It didn't tear up everything in the basement. It wouldn't even follow Doris upstairs to the basement step unless it was invited. That's strong.
So how will that talk back to your opponent? What will you say? That shows your point's wrong because.
Give it away and just let it die.
Say that in the text up there.
Okay, everybody, you're going to meet with your opponent. This is the time to talk back. So wait, look at me. Not yet. This is the time to talk back. You want to say things to your opponent like, so your point seems to be, right? But actually. So A is going to go first again. Meet with your opponent. You have 2 minutes each. I'll ring the bell when it's time to switch. Go.
that she's strong because she just took it and took care of it. Because like other people are weak too, and they take care of dogs in real life.
But when you said she was weak, I mean when you said she like her parents didn't have that much money, I think that should be in strong, because like you can't like be weak and like try to keep a dog, because like
It's bad for family. You don't always have to be strong to save a dog. You can be weak. I know you can be weak, but I mean, I'm just saying that.
Okay, everybody, eyes are on me. Okay. Now comes time for our conclusion. And here's the really, really interesting part. So this whole time you've been arguing, is she strong, is she weak? And you've been arguing for position A or position B. But I'm going to tell you right now that you and your opponent are going to become partners. And you're going to create position C that you can both agree with and argue for. So it might be that you both say, we both want to take position A. We both take that position because. Or it might be that you create a new position and you may say something like, Doris is, but Doris is this and also this. Okay, so right now, will you work with your opponent and become partners and try to make a new position statement that you can find evidence from the entire story to fit with, that you can back up with evidence and reasons?
Because in the beginning of the story, she was strong, but then at the end she was weak. You know, she wasn't like really strong like she was in the beginning of the story. You get it?
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, she was weak all because of her parents. She was only weak because her parents are saying to her that you cannot have a dog. That's the only time that she was weak. But that's no, and she was also weak when her eyes filled up with tears and she was afraid to talk to her parents. That's because of her parents. That's what I'm saying. She's afraid to talk to her parents. She's afraid about her parents and she's gonna send her to the pound. You know, she's afraid of a lot of stuff.
Or the dad is strong because
He realized what Doris was feeling and brought the dog back.
she pushes her so sad to bright side of listening.
She was strong because she was sad. She was also she at the end.
Okay,
she
everybody,
also got to keep
eyes
the
on
puppy.
me. So right now, Madeline is going to share what she and her partner came up with for their position statement C. So Madeline, could you share with us your position statement C that you came up with?
Well, I said Doris is courageous and she's lonely because in the beginning she had the courage to go find a stray dog and take care of it and speak up to her parents. But then loneliness because at the end she was worried that she would never have a friend like the dog, and she was
So perhaps you could be courageous, but your loneliness could hold you back from being as courageous as you might be. Okay, everybody, you're going to tuck the stories back into your notebooks, and we're going to move on to our next part of the day.